Hey everybody, we made it to season 23, which has no theme, so it's kind of a free-for-all. So hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, do whatever you want, just be safe. On January 12, 2016, Wade Anderson finished work and returned to the home he shared with his wife Janet and stepdaughter Hannah in Regina, Saskatchewan. When he stepped inside his home in the early evening, he sensed something was wrong as it was unusually quiet. As he went into the bedroom, he found Hannah laying face down in a pool of her own blood. Investigators immediately started looking for her killer, but her parents already knew who it was. This is Monsters. This case involves people who were underage at the time of the murder, so they are identified by their initials. Skylar Prockner was born in May of 1998. It seemed that Skylar suffered from some mental health issues from an early age. When he was only 6 years old, a teacher referred him to Child and Youth Services. She said that she was concerned with his talk of suicide and a desire to be a serial killer. Evidently, Skylar's mother told his teacher, quote, "If he wants to be a Chippendale dancer or a serial killer, I will support him." That would end up being a problem because when a child is having mental health issues, the quickest way to ensure they won't get better is for their parents to not accept their illness. Unsurprisingly, Skylar's mental health did not improve, and only a few years later he was suspended from school. It was noted that his parents were called weekly about the child swearing, throwing things, and pushing other students. It doesn't seem like his parents were really interested in improving Skylar's behavior, though. That led to Skylar undergoing a psychiatric assessment at the age of 10, where the psychiatrist suggested the boy might be suffering from dysthymia, which is a mild, persistent form of depression. The doctor recommended counseling, but records show that Skylar's parents did not take that advice. He would manage to stay out of treatment for the next 6 years. During that time, he would end up in a short-lived relationship with a girl named Hannah. Hannah Leflar was born on November 19, 1998 to Jeff and Janet Leflar. At some point, her parents separated and her mother married a man named Wade Anderson. She was described as shy but trusting and became a popular student at Tom Collegiate in Regina. One of her best friends was a teenager who was known in court documents as LM. LM didn't have a solid home life, but was seen as a good kid and spent a lot of time at Hannah's house. They weren't just friends at school. LM would regularly eat dinner with Hannah and her family. LM ended up introducing Hannah to his friend Skylar, and after they all hung out for a while, Hannah and Skylar became a couple. It didn't take long for Hannah to see some red flags that worried her about her boyfriend. Skylar was possessive and jealous, so she broke up with him in May of 2014. Skylar did not take the breakup well and immediately began stalking Hannah and contacting her over and over. He sent her the usual messages over text and social media, pleading with her to take him back, but when that didn't work, his behavior escalated. He started making angry and passive-aggressive social media posts and then started driving by her house screeching his tires. He dropped out of school shortly after the breakup, but other students were well aware of the situation. Friends of Hannah's would later tell the media that Skylar's attitude was basically, quote, "You're mine forever, nobody else gets you." On one occasion, Skylar proceeded to smash a gift that Hannah had given him with a hammer on her front porch. Unfortunately, no adult in this situation took more aggressive actions to resolve the situation. Hannah's mother communicated with Skylar's mother and threatened to contact the police if the harassment didn't stop, but there's no information about the outcome. Based on the history of Skylar's mother, she likely did nothing, but it doesn't seem like Janet went through with her threat to call the police. Clearly, the boy was displaying increasingly unhinged behavior. He did end up being admitted to the adolescent psychiatric unit of Regina Hospital in October of 2014. Skylar had called his father and told him that he was in the garage with everything set up to kill himself. He had multiple notes written to his family and to Hannah. He was in the hospital for 9 days, and when he was released, the doctor said that the notes had been written months prior at the time of the breakup and that Skylar showed no signs of suicide risk at the time. Not only that, but the doctor reported that Skylar showed no signs of depression either. It was likely Skylar's way of manipulating Hannah into getting back together with him, but it didn't work. After he was released, Hannah started dating someone else and Skylar's behavior got worse. Skylar enlisted friends to watch Hannah so they could report on her behavior. One of his friends signed up for the same driver's education class just so he could keep an eye on her. Since Hannah was seeing somebody else, though, it just made Skylar more jealous, and he came up with a plan to either assault or even kill Hannah's new boyfriend. The plan would take on the name Project Zombify, and it included a number of people who were friends with Skylar. They collected baseball bats, a knife, and masks. They even put duct tape over the soles of their shoes to ensure they didn't leave any identifiable footprints. They agreed that, if Hannah tried to interfere, they would knock her out and continue their assault on her boyfriend. The group tried to get chloroform, but evidently weren't able to purchase it, so they got a can of paint thinner to use instead. At the end of October, though, as Project Zombify was in preparation, Hannah broke up with her boyfriend and the plan was abandoned. Skylar used that time to try to convince Hannah to get back together with him, but she refused. Hannah blocked Skylar everywhere she could, but his friends were still feeding him information about her. That's how he learned that she started dating a different boy near the end of 2014. For the remainder of 2014, Skylar's rants about wanting to kill Hannah increased. He told friends that he wanted to cut the brakes on her car. Hannah and LM had begun to drift apart, and Skylar convinced him to start hanging out with her more so he could actually spy on her. He created a fake Facebook account in order to stalk Hannah, and it was there, while stalking his ex-girlfriend online at 1 o'clock in the morning, that he saw pictures of her with her new boyfriend. When he saw those pictures in the early morning hours of January 12, 2015, especially of how happy Hannah looked with someone else, Skylar made the decision to end the teen girl's life. That afternoon, Skylar and LM went to Hannah's house right after she got home from school. Not long after, Skylar entered the home with a hunting knife and chased Hannah into her parents' bedroom. In the room, Hannah tripped and fell, and Skylar was immediately on top of her, stabbing her repeatedly. During the attack, Skylar stabbed himself in the hand. Skylar said in his statement when taking a plea deal that he stabbed Hannah until she stopped moving. He then took her cell phone and left the house. LM was with him but didn't participate in the murder. After they left, Skylar went to the hospital to get stitches in his hand. He made up a story about how he got the injury, which supposedly involved a hunting accident. While there, Skylar was able to instruct LM to smash Hannah's phone and get rid of it. When Skylar left the hospital, he drove to a McDonald's and then to an alley where they tossed the knife and the case to Hannah's cell phone into a dumpster. Then Skylar changed his mind and asked his friend to retrieve both items, but he could only find the knife. Back at his father's house, Skylar told his brother that he had murdered Hannah. He even imitated the sounds that the girl made while she was dying. Skylar ended up disposing of the knife at a farm about 1.25 miles or 2 kilometers from his father's house. It was within a few hours that Hannah's stepfather, Wade Anderson, arrived home and found the teen lying in a pool of blood in the bedroom. There was nothing first responders could do when they got to the scene. Hannah had been stabbed in the torso, arm, hands, and back. She had clear defensive wounds from fighting for her life. The medical examiner found a stab wound inside her mouth and determined the cause of death was a stab to her head that severed her spinal cord. Hannah's parents immediately pointed to Skylar as the killer, and the teenager was arrested the same day. The evidence against Skylar was overwhelming. He had not stayed quiet about the murder or his plan to carry it out leading up to it. The amount of people who had heard Skylar talk about killing Hannah who never spoke up about it would become a news story of its own. Of course, many young people assume the person making claims to kill is just joking, and statistically it's true they're not likely to carry out a murder. But those people are suffering from mental illness that still needs to be treated. Then you could also save someone's life in the rare chance the person does actually carry out their threat. Sadly, being a snitch is viewed worse than being the person who let someone else die. People finally spoke up after it was too late and a clear picture of Skylar's actions came into view. The murder weapon was found and text communications were uncovered. Months prior, when Skylar was still in the psychiatric ward of Regina Hospital, he had a conversation with a friend over Facebook Messenger. Some of his messages included the statements, quote, "I kinda really wanna kill Hannah. Like it literally crosses my mind pretty much every day. I have it pretty much planned out and I don't think she's safe around me. If I saw her with another guy, I would likely kill them both." After his arrest, he was housed at the Paul Dojak Youth Center and he made no attempt to look like a normal, non-violent person. At one point, Skylar was heard threatening another resident in the dining area and said, quote, "What are you going to do when I take this fork and stab you in the fucking neck with it?" He underwent a pre-trial psychiatric assessment where the doctor suggested that Skylar had a mood disorder, major depression, or borderline personality disorder, but would need further evaluation. The doctor noted that Skylar had ongoing symptoms of depression leading up to the murder, but he did not demonstrate any clear symptoms at that time. Another doctor assessed Skylar and believed he was suffering from depression, so he prescribed medication. Skylar stopped taking the medication on his own, and his reason was simply because he didn't want to take it. In April of 2017, Skylar requested to meet with that doctor where he asked to be placed back onto the medication for depression. When asked why, Skylar explained that he wanted the judge to see that he was making an effort. The doctor denied his request because his reason was for the purpose of manipulation, not to actually get better. Also, while at the youth center, Skylar was caught with a picture of Hannah that he had printed on a computer. That being against the rules for obvious reasons, the picture was taken away and Skylar then attempted to kill himself, claiming the staff was not treating him fairly. Eventually, doctors reported that Skylar did not suffer from depression. He was simply a selfish person who didn't care how his actions hurt other people. They noted that he had little guilt and no remorse about his actions that hurt others. They concluded that, without significant treatment, Skylar was highly likely to reoffend. In 2016, Skylar Prockner pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced as an adult. The judge gave him a life sentence with parole eligibility after 10 years. Skylar appealed the adult sentence in 2017, but it was denied. Also in 2017, LM pleaded guilty and was sentenced as a youth. Once Skylar was sentenced as an adult, the protection of his identity was lifted, but the identity of LM has remained under wraps. He was sentenced to 7 years and would be eligible for release after 4, so he has likely been released by now. This story is a warning on multiple levels. To parents, take your child's mental health seriously. Can a child outgrow concerning behavior? Sure, but too often that behavior grows into something that can cause harm to themselves or someone else. It never hurts to have them see a counselor. For individuals, if you see concerning, potentially dangerous behavior by someone, say something. Stop believing that minding your own business extends to death threats. For others, you don't own anybody. Relationships come and go, and if someone doesn't want to be with you, forcing them to be with you is not going to make things better. If you don't have the emotional tools available to handle a breakup, then don't even start dating. Just because you don't want to break up doesn't give you the right to become a monster. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.